We're going to begin in memory and end in hope. If you're new with us today, welcome. We're so glad that you're here, and it's a day when we have more than the usual newcomers. So you're going to have to forgive me for going back a year into Judson's history and into our personal history and doing some remembering of what's happened here since last fall. The memories are important. We'll begin in memory and end in hope. This congregation had a really rough time last fall. We had a death a month through February, and each one took something from us that cannot be replaced. It would be really hard to describe to a newcomer what it was like to be surprised by seats that were always filled now being empty. Some of them were filled on Sunday for decades, others for a shorter time, and those seats can't be refilled. We also had a man who was living with us in sanctuary since September 15th last year, who went by the alias of Juan, and he left in August of this year. I want to go back to where he stayed and honor his time with us, as well as to remember some of those people as a way to relieve the pressure of grief that did come to us. So just give me a minute to walk around. Juan, we thank you for being with us 11 months, and we bless you on your way, and we know you're okay today. David, you always sat right back here, and you were such a staunch anti-Baptist Baptist. You gave us so much. Thank you. Aaron O'Connor, I'm not going to stay on the calendar. You killed yourself a few days after you turned 50 in August of this year, continuing our season of grief. You were our custodian. You kept things going here. You loved us, and we loved you. And we are so glad Sequoia will be able to stay with us. Roger, we'll never forget your sparkling eyes. Your seat is not really filled yet, and it won't be. Lenny, our Buddhist Jewish member of long-standing, who stayed on the front steps and greeted us so often, so well, and so generously when he wasn't playing his banjo for us. Dick Huber, you always sat in different places, but you were kind of on the right side of this congregation. And we thank you for being with us all that time. And May Hammer sat right here in her wheelchair for the longest time. Probably the brightest-eyed person in the whole congregation. And she always said, "Stop worrying about me. My body is really, really broken, as it was for a long time, but my mind, I'm with you. I am with you." And then, of course, the day before the election, which sort of took all the grief of the whole fall and put it on steroids. It's like the computer got stuck capitalizing everything. The day before the election on November 7th, when our grief magnified and exploded into not understanding, Roland died. And Roland had been with us for more years than anybody really knows how to count. And he loved us, and we loved him, and the best way to put that was when he died. The children got his entire collection of videos, minus the porn, and put stickers on it, and gave it out to the whole congregation. And so many of us have great, great videos from Roland. I have his entire collection of Amos and Andy. So we have been through a season of grief, and we're still in it, because today we are saturated with news of hurricanes, and we're filled up. We're like sponges that can't really take anymore. One of you wrote me an email and said, "You know, I tremble, and I don't know why I tremble." And she said, "I think I'm just experiencing the grief of Houston, and the grief of Florida, and the grief of grief. And so sometimes I can't even find out why. I shake a little bit." So today, let us go into that grief a little bit. Let it be. It's real. And imagine another kind of September. Another kind of fall. One where I'm going to hope that you will agree with me that there is a reason to imagine something different. I'm not going to make a rational argument for it. You people are way too smart for that. But I am going to make a spiritual one. So just sit with the grief of the loss, especially those of you who have specific losses that I've just named out loud. Just sit for a minute with it, and we'll move on. So here we are again, together, at the beginning of a new season, a new fall, with that 9/11 kind of blue sky around us. It's the same kind of sky. It wasn't that cold that day, but it wasn't hot. And the hurricanes down south are giving us new reason to worry, to talk to each other. And then we've got this text from Jesus that says, it's all going to fall down, and I'm going to build it all up. And one way to understand this text is to say that things are going to fall down, things are going to fall apart, and they will be built up again, and they will come back together again. Don't get too attached to anyone or anything, because even this wonderful community here, this beautiful building, which does change, don't get too attached to anything. Now, Jesus is not Buddhist, but he acts that way sometimes. When he says that he is going to build up what has been torn down, he's attacking the religious and political reality of his time. He's really just given it to the temple that everybody thought was going to be permanent and universal and sturdy. And he's saying that there's something deeper and more sturdy than that, and that it is love, that it is peace, that it is joy. He's saying, please don't be anxious, because your very attachment to the temple makes you look foolish, in my mind. My divinity school dean from the University of Chicago, Jerome Bruner, had this long sentence that says the same thing. So let's give it a try. All cultures, he said, are inherently negotiated compromises between the already established and the imaginatively possible. They are contests of control over conceptions of reality. So when we respond to a flood, we're in negotiation with that reality and with what might come. We're in a fight to tell a story to ourselves, first of all, about what the hell is going on. And it is a negotiated argument internally first. Jesus is doing that here. He is forecasting change at the deepest possible level. Get over your surprise that everything changes, because everything does change. You will change, and you are in a negotiation with the change. Even that horrible hurricane, it's probably destroying Florida right now. The sun will come out. I've been through these hurricanes in Florida. Not the big ones, but the sun will come back out. So let's move back into this sanctuary, this place, and do so in a way that is ready for whatever this fall will bring us, understanding that this fall is going to bring us as much change as last fall did. It'll just be different. We already know it's bringing 35,000 dreamers in New York City a boatload of fear. We can be saturated by that number or find a way to help one or two. All of a sudden, we have a new ally in Cardinal Dolan. Now, you talk about change. That's a change. I don't know if you heard his speech about the dreamers, but he said what the government is trying to do is unbiblical, unchristian, and un-American. Who knew? We do not always agree with Cardinal Dolan about everything. But to find that ally moving into the new sanctuary movement, into the immigrant rights movement, it's okay by me. It works. There might even be some hope that things will change there. I don't know. I was at Cardinal Dolan's installation, and some reporter afterwards said, Cardinal Dolan, would you like to condemn something today? On behalf of your installation. He said, yes, instant mashed potatoes and low-fat beer. So, look, the guy has a sense of humor. So we almost felt that we were at the absolute most stretched moment in this immigration movement when, lo and behold, Cardinal Dolan actually said something. This is the Holy Spirit at work. And we were almost so stretched with the number of children who were coming to the clinics on Tuesday and Thursday nights that we were about to send out for low-fat beer. And guess what happened? Tamara Rowe and Jean Ovid and Allison Squires found people who want to help. That's good news. And came and helped take care of children who were otherwise kind of running all over the place trying to find help along with their families. If you want some inspiration, look at that thing that might seem little and go do it someplace. Go do it. You see, that's what a church is. It's not a building, and it's not even its people. A church is a trust maker. A church is a place where you build trust. And unfortunately, many of us are being asked to trust these days at the doctoral level when we flunked math and algebra already. Many of us are asked to trust when not enough trust was deposited in us to begin with. So let's talk about that. A family in this congregation came in this week to talk about a terrible thing that had happened in their family. An opioid crisis, abuse, a murder, a suicide, and how it was affecting their adolescent children. And one of the children asked a really good question. He said, "Is our family destroyed now? Is our family ruined because of this? Because, I know we had trouble on one side, and now we've got trouble on the other side. And is our family ruined? None of my friends have families who are ruined." And we sort of had to say to him, maybe they do and you don't know it. Maybe a lot of families are ruined. Maybe some of the fanciest looking people you've ever seen have families that were in a lot of trouble. But they don't want to talk about it because they don't trust you not to judge them for having a family that was ruined. Because they want to hide their trouble. They don't want to tell you they have an opioid problem. They want to hide that trouble too. You're not ruined if you have trouble. Congregations exist to create trust and to build it. And the way we do that is by working together on things. We come together, we sit together, we play together, we eat together, we go to weddings together, we go to funerals together, we practice singing together, we have meetings together, we have meetings together, we have more meetings together, we have meetings together, we have meetings together, and we do our best to have those meetings be beautiful and respectful and democratic and open and participatory. And every now and then we succeed. Every now and then we succeed, and that is a miracle that we can do that. We practice democracy. We practice participation, we practice trust, and we don't always get it right, but most of the time we do. So if you have a family of origin that you thought was ruined, you're wrong. There's no ruination. This is like a family. It's not just a family, it's a neighborhood, it's a village. But come here and practice trust on somebody else. That's what we're here for. Not for immigration, not for all the big stuff, because we know it's further along than learning how to live in a not yet ruined, trust-building family. A second example is something I'll try to do quickly. I think I can. I am in a fascinating discussion about a slogan. I told the community ministers this week. So one of the sermons I preached a while back had the line, "We were built for times like this," in it. And somebody, and it was also in a United Church of Christ devotional, and then someone wrote a whole book about it for Abingdon Press, and is being accused of stealing the slogan. So it's having this little cause célèbre. And what is true is that this person was the pastor. You can find out about it on CNN. The pastor, his name is Bill Schaper. He's a good friend of mine, and I'll be with him today or tomorrow. He was the pastor to Hillary Clinton. He curated devotionals to send to her, using the United Church of Christ devotionals, for which I write, and many other devotionals. And he didn't attribute them properly. And so Abingdon has pulled the book and said that it's a kind of plagiarism. He was supposed to speak at Riverside on Wednesday night with Clinton, and it was canceled because of this fluff. And I'm trying to think about how to deal with such a thing when it just goes on and everybody wants to talk about it. But a man in Texas whose devotional was lifted and not attributed, instead of going to Bill, went straight to CNN to embarrass Hillary Clinton, to embarrass this pastor. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with that picture? If somebody did something to you, you go first to that person, Because if you don't, trust is destroyed. What happens, people, when you don't go to the person you're mad at first is a triangled mess that creates distrust all over the place. What happens if you do go creates trust. So I use the example as a way of talking about triangles and talking about having the courage to create trust everywhere you go. So people don't have to say about you, "Why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she tell me?" We are also renegotiating a great deal of American history, not just families and not just work and clerical relationships. The monuments issue comes to mind. It's so interesting. I would love to know what you all think about these historical monuments. I could talk about it forever, and I'm not going to. I just want to tell about one book that one of you told me he had read this summer that made an extraordinary impact on him in the sense of being able to trust the American historical narrative. It's called The Half Has Never Been Told: Slavery and the Making of American Capitalism by Edward E. Baptist. And it shows that all told, more than 600 million, or almost half of the economic activity in the United States in 1836, derived directly or indirectly from cotton produced by the million-odd slaves, 6% of the total population. I won't repeat it. It puts such a lie to the main American narrative that it's hardworking white people that made this country great. For me, and possibly for you, the breakdown in trust by that kind of fact in historical narrative, forget monuments, I can't even get that far, is so enormous that it causes me to have to practice my democracy even harder, in even smaller ways. So, what do we do with such large breakdowns in trust, perhaps for you familially, perhaps for you historically, perhaps for you spiritually, perhaps somebody just went and ragged on you about something that you think was wrong or gossiped about something about you. Maybe your trust is totally full. I doubt it at this day in American life. So what do we do? Obviously, we do church and church and church and meetings and meetings and meetings, and we do them well and we do them joyously, and we connect and engage with each other and practice and experience trust building. Behave beautifully with each other. Say a nice word to somebody. Refuse to gossip or tell tales out of school. You can also say a prayer for electricity and clean water, and the knowledge that somehow you can help somebody who doesn't have either. You can attend the normal things that everyday people fall in love with. Morning coffee. If you are menstruating, tampons. Refugees don't have them. Homeless people don't have them. And I won't tell you a story about being in Grand Central Station the other day with somebody needing one. Normal things that we take for granted that are right here, right now. Trees, walks in the park, silly things like the Great North River tugboat race. You probably missed it. You were probably at a workshop at Judson. It happens usually the first Saturday in September as competitors' tugboats sail between Pier 83 and 84. There's also a spinach eating contest. The Robin's Egg Blue, Emily Ann, won again this year. having cleared both piers in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So why does anybody need an annual tugboat race or a spinach eating contest? They don't. That's the point. As you learn how to trust something, the best evidence that you know how to trust is that you're doing something totally useless. Right? If you're so busified all the time, you're saying you don't know how to trust. But if you're doing something useless, that indicates something. Instead of always being worried about being useful, and worse, doing something that you find is useful, that's a great way to learn trust. Free yourself from obligation. God has the whole world in God's hands, not yours. Be useless as a demonstration of faith and trust. So, Judson, we exist to enjoy trust, create trust, be trust. Empty seats and all, the ones who are gone and all, floods and all, temples undone and all. We are a built people who are here to build and fall apart and build again. Amen.